2 out of every 3 American households now own at least one houseplant. And the number one killer of those houseplants, according to NPR and multiple university extension services, is not neglect. It's overwatering. The symptoms, yellowing leaves, wilting, leaf drop, look almost identical to the symptoms of underwatering. So a well-meaning beginner sees a drooping plant, adds more water, and accelerates the very problem they're trying to fix. Most people who quietly decide they lack a green thumb were never given the right plant to begin with. The global indoor plant market was valued at roughly $20 to $21 billion in 2025, according to Custom Market Insights and DataBridge Market Research. The pandemic-era spike of 2020 and 2021 has settled, but the market remains structurally larger than pre-pandemic levels. Online plant sales are growing faster still, projected at just over 10% annually through 2031, though traditional garden centers and nurseries held about half the total market share in 2025. Millions of people bought plants during lockdown. Whether those plants survived is another matter.
A $21 billion industry has strong reason to promote trendy, photogenic varieties. Variegated monstera, alocasia silver dragon, philodendron birkin. These look striking in a photograph. They are often not the plants that last on a shelf. The plants that actually endure through inconsistent watering, dim apartments, and ordinary inattention are a different list, selected by a different standard. Aaron Stile at Iowa State University Extension laid out that standard clearly. A genuinely easy houseplant tolerates a wide range of light levels, especially low light. It thrives despite inconsistent watering, particularly dry soil conditions. It tolerates low humidity and still looks good. It remains healthy and attractive with minimal care. And if grown for flowers, it blooms without heroic effort. That standard eliminates many popular recommendations. Stile himself has noted the absurdity of some common lists. How does Calathea make it on these lists? This is a plant so persnickety, there are memes about it.
Pothos, Epipremnum aureum, sometimes called devil's ivy, is native to Morea in the Society Islands of French Polynesia, according to the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. It grows in low to moderate light. The soil should dry moderately between waterings. It propagates from a simple stem cutting placed in a glass of water. By nearly every measure, it is the most forgiving houseplant in common cultivation. The common name tells the story. It stays green even when kept in the dark and is extremely hard to kill. Variegated varieties like Golden Pothos and Marble Queen may revert to solid green in very low light, but the plant itself persists. Pothos holds a genuinely unusual place in botany. It is classified as a flowering plant, yet it is the only reported species in its entire family, the Auraceae, that does not readily bloom. Researchers publishing in Scientific Reports in 2016 traced this to a genetic impairment in a gibberellin biosynthetic gene called EAGA30X1. One of the last known spontaneous flowerings in cultivation was reported in 1964. When researchers experimentally applied gibberellic acid, they could induce flowering, but under normal conditions, it simply does not happen. Every pothos sold in a store or passed between friends was almost certainly propagated from a cutting, not grown from seed. Each one is a clone.
That same resilience creates a real ecological problem outdoors in warm climates. The UF IFAS assessment of non-native plants lists pothos as invasive in South Florida and as caution for Central Florida. The Florida Invasive Species Council classifies it as Category 2. In Sri Lanka, it has overgrown several hectares of the Udawada Kile Sanctuary. UF IFAS Master Gardener volunteer Ann Madden put it plainly. The things that make pothos appealing as a houseplant also make it an environmental danger. Fast growth, easy propagation, heat and drought tolerant. The mild houseplant with 4-inch leaves can become, in a tropical climate, a vine with 18-inch leaves, engulfing tree canopies. The practical rule for home gardeners is to keep it in a pot, keep it indoors, and dispose of any pruned pieces in sealed trash bags rather than composting them or discarding them outdoors. The snake plant, Dracaena trifasciata, still widely sold under its former name, Sansevieria, is native to tropical West Africa, from Nigeria east to the Congo. The genus Sansevieria was formally absorbed into Dracaena in 2017, which accounts for the inconsistent labeling still found in retail and online searches.
Iowa State Extension describes it with characteristic bluntness. It grows in almost any environment, tolerating low light through direct light, and the only way to kill this plant is to overwater it. It can go weeks without water. In winter, it may need watering only every couple of months. This drought tolerance connects to an unusual feature of its biology. Unlike most houseplants, which open their stomata during the day, the snake plant uses crassulacean acid metabolism, or CAM photosynthesis. Its stomata open only at night, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen while reducing daytime water loss. This is why snake plants are often recommended specifically for bedrooms. The snake plant also carries a wide cultural footprint. In Nigeria, it is linked to Ogun, the Orisha of war, and used in rituals to remove the evil eye. In Brazil, it is called Espada de São Jorge, St. George's sword, and grown outside houses as protection against evil. It figures in the Afro-Brazilian syncretic religion Umbanda. A snake plant is visible on the porch in Grant Wood's 1930 painting American Gothic. The compact honey cultivar was discovered in 1939 by William W. Smith Jr. at the Crescent Nursery Company in New Orleans, and the 1941 plant patent was assigned to Sylvan Frank Hahn of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
The ZZ plant, Zamioculcas zamiofolia, is native to South Africa and entered the commercial houseplant market in the 1990s. Dutch nurseries were among the first to propagate it, and shipments sent to the United States, according to the University of Connecticut Extension, were eagerly purchased. It does exceptionally well in low light, genuinely low light, including windowless offices with nothing but fluorescent fixtures. It tolerates dry conditions, low humidity, and inconsistent attention. Yukon Extension summarizes the care with the same directness others apply to the snake plant. Overwatering is just about the only factor that leads to the demise of this tough houseplant. Beneath the soil, fleshy underground rhizomes store water, which accounts for its drought tolerance. Growth is moderate to slow. Propagation from leaf cuttings is possible at home, but patience is required. Under household conditions, a new rhizome may take up to 9 months to form, compared with roughly 1 month in a greenhouse.
The spider plant, Chlorophytum comosum, is native to southern and tropical Africa. Iowa State Extension calls it one of the easiest houseplants to grow, making it one of the most popular. It produces cascading stems bearing small plantlets, the spiders, and propagation requires nothing more than snipping a baby and placing it in water or soil. It adapts to various light and temperature conditions, and for anyone with pets, this distinction matters. The spider plant is non-toxic to cats and dogs, per the ASPCA. Several other plants on this list, Pothos, ZZ plant, snake plant, peace lily, are mildly to moderately toxic. The ZZ plant contains calcium oxalate crystals that cause pain and irritation if chewed. Snake plants contain saponins that can cause gastrointestinal upset. For households with curious animals, the spider plant is one of the safest choices available. The cast iron plant, Aspidistra elation, is native to Eastern Asia, from the lower Himalayas through China to Japan. It reached England in 1822 and became the defining houseplant of the Victorian era. The Brooklyn Botanic Garden describes the period. Every 19th century home there had the ubiquitous cash pot of Aspidistra lurking in a darkened corner. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the Aspidistra as regarded as a symbol of full middle-class respectability. George Orwell chose it as his emblem of bourgeois stuffiness in the 1936 satirical novel Keep the Aspidistra Flying.
The Victorians kept it not for symbolism, but for survival. Iowa State Extension notes it endures heat, dust, low light, and lack of water better than most other houseplants. The Brooklyn Botanic Garden provides specifics. It can survive temperatures as low as 23 degrees Fahrenheit, and with good air circulation, as high as 100. It tolerates light levels as low as 25-foot candles, less than a dim hallway. Victorian family records document aspidistras passed from generation to generation, some surviving more than a century. Growth is frustratingly slow, which is why it rarely appears in trending plant content. It does not reward impatience. It rewards decades. The cast iron plant does flower. The blooms are smallish, tulip-like, puce-colored with darker speckling, and they appear at soil level, hidden among the base of the leaves. Botanists believe pollination in the wild is accomplished by slugs and snails, a reproductive strategy conducted entirely at ground level. The peace lily, Spathiphyllum, tolerates low light but flowers best in indirect sunlight. Iowa State Extension highlights a feature especially useful for forgetful owners. Leaves will wilt when plants are dry, but will revive after watering. It functions as a built-in visual indicator. When it droops, it needs water. When it recovers, you're done. It is one of the few plants that communicates its needs in terms beginners can immediately read.
The jade plant, Crassula ovata, is native to the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. The University of Wisconsin-Madison Extension describes it as a true succulent, storing water in its leaves, stems, and roots, one that likes the warm, dry conditions found in most homes and tolerates neglect. It does best with 4 or more hours of direct sun, and the soil should dry out completely between deep waterings. Overwatering causes leaf drop and stem rot. Propagation is especially easy. In the wild, leaves or pieces that break off and fall to the ground will root within a few weeks. Documented specimens of 50 years and older are not uncommon, and collectors have reported plants exceeding 65 years. When propagation costs nothing and a single plant can outlive its owner, the cost per year of a jade plant approaches zero. One subject deserves candid treatment: the NASA Clean Air Study. The study is real. It was conducted in 1989, led by researcher B.C. Wolverton in association with the Associated Landscape Contractors of America, and it investigated ways to clean air in sealed environments like space stations. Common indoor plants, including pothos, snake plants, spider plants, and peace lilies, did remove volatile organic compounds such as benzene, formaldehyde, and trichloroethylene from sealed test chambers. The peace lily was among the top performers, removing 5 major toxins, including ammonia, which only a few plants in the study could handle.
The part that rarely accompanies the claim is the scale problem. In 2020, researchers Cummings and Waring published a peer-reviewed analysis in the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology, calculating what the NASA results mean in a normal room. To match the VOC removal provided by ordinary outdoor-to-indoor air exchange, the equivalent of opening a window, you would need 10 to 1,000 plants per square meter of floor space. The original study used small, sealed chambers, not rooms with normal ventilation. A 2014 review in Environmental Science and Pollution Research stated, while the plant's ability to take up VOCs is well documented in laboratory studies, the effect of plants on indoor air in complex environments like offices requires further investigations. The specific claim that snake plants produce enough oxygen for humans to survive in a sealed room was fact-checked by Drexel University and PolitiFact. The NASA study made no such claim. None of this diminishes the case for keeping plants indoors. The psychological benefits are better supported than the air quality claims. A 2022 systematic review with meta-analyses published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health examined 42 records and found that indoor plants significantly benefited participants' diastolic blood pressure and academic achievement, along with relaxed physiology and enhanced cognition.
Texas A&M horticulture expert Charlie Hall has stated that plants can help boost mood and lower cortisol. With urban dwellers spending more than 80% of their time indoors, the case for houseplants rests more firmly on how they affect the people around them than on atmospheric chemistry.
The practical guidance from university extension services across the country is consistent. When uncertain, do not water. Most of these plants tolerate dry soil far better than wet soil. Light requirements are more flexible than many people assume. ZZ plants survive windowless offices. Cast iron plants manage on 25-foot candles. Pothos and philodendrons handle north-facing windows. Propagation turns one purchase into an unlimited supply. A single pothos, spider plant, or jade can become dozens with nothing more than a pair of scissors and a glass of water. And for households with pets, checking the ASPCA toxicity list before buying is worth the 30 seconds it takes, because several of the most popular easy plants will make a cat or dog sick. These plants have endured darkened Victorian parlors, sealed NASA test chambers, and millions of well-meaning beginners who love them a little too much. They do not need perfect conditions. They need someone willing to leave them alone.